building me a home. I'm building me a home. I'm building me a home. I'm building me a home. This earthly house is gonna soon decay, and my soul's gotta have somewhere to stay. I'm building me a home, and I invite us to listen our ways to that home, not necessarily just in my singing, but in the ways that the world is communicating with you, the ways that the world communicated with you to lead you here to this space today, to lead you here to this community overall, with this desire to build something more, to build something of your dreams. Last week, when we were engaged in the climate justice revival, we were imagining a future 50 years in time. Building a home in the future is this idea. And I'm inviting us to consider that some of the ways that we imagine this into being is by listening. It's said that listening is one of the most profound acts that we as humans engage in. Often we think of listening as a tool to gather information, receive advice, or follow instructions, but in reality, it's so much more. At its core, listening invites us to be fully present with one another. It requires setting aside distractions, assumptions, and agendas to truly open ourselves to what lies beyond. Listening isn't just about hearing words, it's about being curious about the wisdoms and stories and truths behind the words. When we practice deep listening, we create space for something sacred to emerge. We step into a realm that feels different from the noise of daily life, a space where we are truly seen, heard, and find belonging. This space is not just a metaphorical home, it is the home we long for in our hearts. It is a place of connection and understanding, and it can only emerge when we are truly listened to. How many of you come to this church or have sought physical community to find a sense of belonging? I know I have. Yeah, most people in the room, maybe a lot of the people online joining in. Perhaps, like me, you longed for a community where you could feel seen and heard, knowing that belonging is rooted in being listened to. Last month at GLOW, the church's Growing and Leading Ourselves Whole meeting, I invited a congregant to share a difficult opinion. Though it could have been interpreted harshly, I could hear the hurt and sense of scarcity beneath the words. And by listening openly and compassionately, we deepened our sense of connection with that congregant, and something beautiful happened. A newer community member shared how witnessing this deep listening reinforced their own desire to belong to this church. This speaks to the transformative power of listening. In moments of deep listening, perspectives shift, hearts open, and new paths emerge. Listening is not just about navigating life, it's about creating it. Think about how we are shaped by what we choose to listen to. When we listen to the voices of love, compassion, and justice, we gravitate towards those values. But when we focus on voices of fear and division, we may find ourselves ensnarled in negativity. Listening is not passive. It is an active choice about what we attune our hearts and minds to. Take, for example, the story of the cricket and the coins. That was what was missing. I thought there was, so in the reading that Rod shared, I think that there was a page that was missing that told this story of a cricket and coins, where, I'll just summarize it, where amidst the noise of a bustling street, one person hears the sound of a cricket, something seemingly impossible. When asked how they heard it, the response was simple. The person said, "It's all about being taught what to listen for." This story reminds us to attune to the sacred, the small but significant voices amidst the chaos of life. An example of this was also reflected in our story for all ages, when in the example, it was the eagle who was flapping its wings, flying amidst the crows that were cawing. But because they were cawing, they couldn't hear the sound of sacred eagle coming to offer a voice of wisdom and guidance. However, us watching, we could imagine what those winds sounded like, and we could imagine ourselves being grounded in those kind of examples. A more tangible, concrete one was, I feel like, reflected. I hope it's okay that I shared this, Rod. It's not too personal. Just this morning, as we were preparing, we were centering ourselves for the service, and in that moment, there was a lot of sounds. It wasn't noisiness, but just the sounds of people entering in that could be received as noise. And I asked Rod, how are you feeling? And I'll just say, I know I was feeling a bit anxious as we were getting ready to start. But I said, what if, well, it was suggested maybe we could take some breaths together. And before we did, I made a mention to notice, to not try to escape the sounds of the noise, but to use the sounds that could be considered noise as an invitation to kind of cushion the space of breath. And we both had this profound experience of breathing. The sounds of the room maybe didn't change, but to both of us, they kind of did for a moment. And that connects to being attuned to the sounds of silence coming within the sounds of noise. In our world of distractions, we can often reinforce our own views. But what if we chose to listen for the sacred, the crickets amidst the coins? Gosh, there was this really cute part of this story. I'm sorry, I have to go back to it. Where so this person, they're maybe raised in the country, and they're on this busy street, and they're walking with a friend, and they have their friend like listen for the sounds of the crickets while everybody is like in this busy New York city. And the person is like, well, but how would the other people, if they're not tuned to listen to the sounds of crickets? He used an example of pulling coins out of his pocket on this noisy, busy street. But when he dropped these coins on the street, everyone paused to look to see where was the money falling. And tell me y'all don't experience something like that. Places where you could be shouting someone's name and they don't hear you, but if you drop the sound of money, what? It says something. That's the a part of this a story that I needed to mention, because it points to listening for what we truly know, what we feel to be sacred. And it doesn't lie to us. If you maybe don't notice the sounds of maybe the cricket noises, but it does catch you when you hear money falling. That's not a joke to belittle, but it is a call to attune to something deeper. When we listen deeply, we recognize that we are not alone, that we're part of an interconnected web of life, and our conversations weave that web together. This is why the talking stick from the indigenous wisdom tale holds such power. It reminds us that every voice matters, that each person has something valuable to contribute, and that listening is essential to community. When we pass the microphone, like a talking stick, I know sometimes it can be a challenge to wait until the microphone reaches us, but it's a tool that helps us to be heard and allows for some folks who need the talking stick to be held in order for someone to hear. It kind of serves in that way. And we remember that listening is sacred. It helps to build relationships, fosters understanding, and creates a sense of belonging. But in our own lives, how often do we practice this kind of deep listening, of setting aside our thoughts to truly listen to those around us, not just their words, but the truth beneath their words? Maybe someone is saying that they're okay, but their leg is bouncing anxiously, and maybe that's just the way that they, express themselves, or maybe it's a call to just pause for a moment and take a breath together with that friend. It's like we don't have to rush to tell the story of our times together. Some indigenous wisdom, along with Stufen's wisdom, that quote that was shared at the beginning of Rod's reading, deep listening begins with filtering out distractions and opening our hearts to what is truly speaking to us. It requires humility, recognizing that we don't always have the answers, and a patience, because deep listening takes time. Most importantly, it requires love, the awareness that listening is an act of care and commitment. Listening in this way, I think many of us know, is a spiritual practice rooted in compassion. And I want to include that just last week, many UUCT members gathered in each other's homes to share personal stories of injustices as a part of our participation in Tallahassee's Capital Area Justice Ministry. The stories that were shared will guide our work to help in continuing building beloved community, the beloved community that Dr. Martin Luther King envisioned, and that CAJM drew its inspiration starts from. Listening as practice in the CAJM house meetings that some of y'all might have participated in is an act of love and trust. It says that I value what you have to say and I honor your experiences. Are there any people here who participated in the CAJM house meetings? I see 1, 2. Okay, I see a couple of people who participated in them. For folks who are not familiar with the meetings that Capital Area Justice Ministries has, there will be some additional opportunities to participate in these house meetings to discuss the kinds of things that you have listened to in your community and feel like you want to help make a difference about. That's what the house meetings are about. And I just wanted to make sure that folks who have not participated know what's being talked about. So the listening as practiced in those house meetings is an act of love and trust that says, I value what you have to say and I honor the experiences you bring. And in a fragmented and divided world, listening in this way is the tool that bridges divides and creates a sense of unity and offers healing and compassion. It helps us to live out our values of dignity and respect for all people when we listen deeply. Rachel Naomi Raymond writes that, quote, our listening creates sanctuary for the homeless parts within the other person. Even listening to the sound of crying babies. I know every time I'm in the pulpit and I notice that children making sounds could be a distraction, I speak to it because sincerely, I always feel like I have a crying child inside of me that is begging me to just give a moment. Can I just pout for a moment? The world is on fire and this child inside of me is always aware. I'm just saying, really. And I know that's true for a lot of people. I'm not trying to be heavy in this moment, but I always feel like there's a part of me that's always crying. And so I just honor that sound and invite it into myself. So I share that to invite that for y'all too. Yes, and the laughter too. Rachel Naomi Raymond writes that our listening, and this feels especially true with what I just said, our listening creates sanctuary for the homeless parts within ourselves and the other person, end quote. Through listening, we offer sanctuary, spaces of refuge and understanding. This is the essence of sacred community. Friends, listening is more than just something we do. It is a way of being, a way of showing up with openness, curiosity, and love. It is how we create space for transformation, build relationships rooted in care, and find a way to come home to ourselves and each other. In closing, I say, may we love as we listen our way home. Amen.